Here's one of the interesting facts about life. All of us have a yesterday. All of us have a today. All of us have a story. And so much of what my life and your life will be and what it will become is what we've chosen to do with the story of our yesterday. You know, over my years of working with human behavior, I've met so many people who have gotten trapped in their yesterday. Their yesterday was a room where there was pain. There was disappointment. There was a limitation placed on it by their story and about where they grew up. And they got trapped there. And so the today that they have in their life is not a today that is beyond their yesterday, but it's a continuation of their yesterday. One of the things that I believe about yesterday is that it's a reference library. It's not a room to live in until you choose to live there. The other thing I know about yesterday is controlled in our today by which set of file cabinets we tend to go back to. You see, in your yesterday, you have one set of file cabinets that's about all your pain, all your disappointments, all your frustrations, and yes, your anger. And you have another set of file cabinets that's about your successes. It's about your growth. It's about your movement of your life forward. And the interesting thing about connecting yesterday to today is that it's a choice. I can choose to get up every day, walk into yesterday and open the file cabinet of all my pain, all my disappointment, all my wrongs. And I can pull files out of there to justify what I'm not doing with my life. Or I can get up and I can walk over to that file cabinet of successes. And I can open those drawers and I can pull out of there my successes in life. And one of those two I'm going to use to define my today. Now I want you to hear me say this. You don't give yourself permission to do anything in your life without you choosing to do it. Anything you do with your life, you do because you give yourself permission. Nothing in life happens by accident. There's a plan, there's an understanding to everything. And so if you and I are going to have a life where we can live forward and not be trapped in yesterday, we need to take a look at our story and see where we are, where we've chosen to be, and is this where you want to be in your life? People look at me funny when I make this statement, but it is true. You are exactly in your life where you want to be. It's your choice. And I don't care what pain there is in yesterday, what frustration, what disappointment. You, if you want to, can rise above it. And I know that's true because it's exactly what I've had to do with my life. I want to spend a little bit of time talking to you about the fact that you can if you will. It's a choice. Every day of your life is a choice. You make a choice, you create a direction, you put a plan in place, and then you act it out. And for so many years of my life, I made the choice to be held hostage by my yesterday. I was born in New Orleans. If I could show you my birth certificate, one of the things you'd see is where it says father. There's no name. I have no idea who my natural father was. My natural mother in New Orleans was a prostitute. And I was the result of a one-night stand she had with a guy. After I was born, she didn't want me. So I was adopted by a family. And that family became the family that I had. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the family. I have 3 sisters. None of my sisters are real sisters with me. We're all adopted from different families. When I was growing up, my mother ruled our house. I didn't find out till years later that the only reason that I was adopted was because my dad wanted a son. My mother never wanted me. And she would prove that to me over and over and over again. I can take you back to the age of 6 because that's where my memories begin. And there wasn't a day of my life that my mother didn't make one of 3 statements to me. You are the stupidest kid I've ever met in my life. Now, we know parents don't lie. So if mom says that, it must be true. Or my mom would tell me, you're never going to amount to anything in life. Again, if mom says that, must be true. Or the thing that would rip my heart out the most, I am sorry we ever adopted you. I'm sorry I ever let you in this house, and my greatest day will be the day that you are no longer here. Now, do you think as a child that would have an effect on you? If that person in your life who was your mom told you you were stupid, that you would never amount to anything in life, and that you weren't lovable, do you think that that could have an emotionally damaging effect upon your life? It did mine. Because my mother would demonstrate in every way possible that she did not want me in her life. Growing up, I never had a birthday cake. My sisters did, but I didn't. You know, at Christmas, you're a kid and you come downstairs and where's your excitement? Your excitement is that there's presents under the tree and you're going to get to open the presents and you're going to get to see what you got for Christmas. I would come down. My sisters would have presents under the tree, but I wouldn't. Do you think there was a message in that? Did you think that played with me? Do you think that could have been emotionally scarring to me? So many people live with the scars of yesterday. Because a scar is that which is always there. And when it's an emotional scar, it always lives inside you. When I was 15 years of age, my mother told me that if I was to live in her house, that I had to pay room and board. Now, when I was 12, we moved from New Orleans to Ardmore, Oklahoma, because my dad had relatives there. And it wasn't a fun time, because all the time my mother would continue to remind me, you're stupid, You'll never do anything in life. And I don't think I will ever love you. So at 15, I got a job at a local IGA grocery store there in Ardmore. And every evening, every day after school, I would go there and I would work till basically 9 o'clock in the evening. And I would call my dad to come get me. I'd been 16 for 2 weeks, and I'm a person who believes that God has a sense of humor. Because, I'll be honest with you, all of us have certain areas of knowledge that we're weak in, and mine happens to be math. I used to close my checking account about every 2 or 3 months just to see what my balance was, because I knew someone was spending my money. And I'd been 16 for 2 weeks. I called my dad to come get me just like I always did. And on that Thursday night, my dad pulled up in front of the grocery store, and I started to walk over and get in the car. My dad opened the car door, and he leaned across the top of the car, and he said, "Richard, wait a minute." I didn't know what was happening. When you're 16 going on 12, life doesn't make a lot of sense. So I just stopped, and my dad closed the car door, and he opened the back car door, and he took something out, and he walked around behind the car. And when my dad stepped into the street light, what I saw was that my dad was carrying a suitcase. And he walked over to where I was standing, and he said, "Richard," he said, "your mom has decided that you can no longer live in her house." He set the suitcase down beside me, and I could see the pain in my dad's eyes. He reached over and put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, "Son, I don't know what to do about this." And he squeezed my shoulder, and he looked me deep in the eyes, and I could see the pain in his eyes, and I could see the tears in his eyes. He says, "I don't want you to ever forget one thing. I love you very much." And I knew those words were true. But I also knew that my mother ruled our house. And what Mom said, that's what happened. And my dad reached over and he gave me a hug, and he turned and he didn't walk back to the car. He sort of ran back to the car, and he leaned across the top of the car, and he looked at me and he said, "You take care of yourself." And with that, my dad got in the car, and he started the car, and he pulled out into the street. And the next memory I have is a guy grabbing me by the back of the neck and screaming at me, "Get out of the street!" Because I'm standing there and I'm watching my dad drive away. And inside me, my heart is about to jump out of my chest, because I'm thinking, if you love me, how can you do this? If you really love me, how can you leave me standing here? Turned around and I walked back over to where the suitcase was sitting. And I stood there, and I'll be honest with you, I have no idea how long it was. But I finally told myself, you can't spend the rest of your life standing on a street corner. So I picked up the suitcase and I walked into downtown Ardmore. Then I went to the Hotel Ardmore, and I walked in and told the gentleman at the front counter I need a room. And he looked at me pretty funny, because you're 16, you're young. But I had cash. So I took a key and I went upstairs. I opened the room, never turned the lights on. Just dropped the suitcase and walked across the room and opened the window and looked down, because there were no screens on the Hotel Ardmore. And I can remember climbing out on that ledge and just sitting there. And inside of me, I was fighting with myself. Fighting with what was I going to do? I saw I had two options. I could jump, or I could crawl back in the room. I understand people who contemplate suicide, because I think when you reach that point in your life where there's no reason for you to live, no one loves you, no one's going to miss you if you're gone, and that sinking feeling of not loneliness, but of being alone, makes you question whether there's any reason to live or not. But on that ledge, I made a decision. That decision was this: if I jumped, my mother would win. And I wasn't about to give that lady that victory in my life. And it was probably one of the first times in my life that I really had to think about, what is my life? What's the value of my life? I crawled back in and I sat in that room all night. The next morning I picked up the phone and I called a gentleman that I knew because his 2 children were my best friends. And I told Troy what had happened. And he said, "Richard, stay there. I'll be there as quickly as I can." About 30 minutes later, Troy was knocking on my door, and I let Troy in. And the first thing Troy did was hug me. And I needed that. We all need hugs. You've had times in your life when you've been down, right? And there was no one there to hug you. It is a very, very, very lonely feeling. I believe that you and I need mental hugs. I believe that we need emotional hugs. And yes, I believe we need physical hugs. Troy and I began to talk. And we talked for probably a little over 2 hours. And Troy asked me, "What are you going to do? What do you want to do?" Well, I think the first thing that came out of my mouth was, I don't want to go back home. I don't want to go back there. So Troy helped me find a room with a lady who was the editor of the daily newspaper in town. And I paid her $5 a week to live in her house. Every morning I would go to school. I'd go to football and tennis practice. And then I'd go to that IGA grocery store and I would work. The owner of the store was a gentleman by the name of J.C. Luke. And I'm a person who believes that God puts people in your life for a purpose. But you and I just have to be open to discovering what that purpose was. And JC was really interesting because he was tough. And he was tough on me. Yeah, he knew what I was going through. But he didn't use it in a way to let me slack off. And he taught me in his own way accountability and responsibility. There was a gentleman there, his name was Archie, and Archie was the produce manager. And Archie was a little different than JC, because Archie had had somewhat of a childhood like I was going through. And Archie was always there, and he wasn't someone that would let me get by with things, but he was someone that would talk to me from his experience and let me know that, yesterday is yesterday. And you can either live there or you can rise above it. I'm going to tell you something. It was a lonely, lonely time. I'd go home each night and I'd walk into the house where I was living. And I'd get my books out and I'd go and I'd sit at the dining room table till I couldn't keep my eyes open. Because I knew that when I walked into that bedroom and I crawled in that bed, I was going to cry myself to sleep. Everybody needs to feel valued. Everybody needs to feel wanted. And yeah, Troy made me feel wanted. JC made me feel wanted. Archie made me feel wanted. But there was still that scar that my natural mother didn't want me, so she gave me away. My adopted mother didn't want me, so she let go of me. And even though I had people in my life that were there and I knew they cared about me, it wasn't the love that I needed from my parents. I graduated high school and I was lucky enough to be able to go to college. And I remember this almost like it was yesterday. I was a sophomore in college and I was still struggling with my yesterday. Yesterday can be so powerful when you're looking at yesterday through your pain. Yesterday can be so powerful when you see it as something that took from your life. And I was tired of living that way. I was tired of not loving myself. I was tired of blaming myself. I was tired of not understanding what really happened. So, when I was a sophomore in college, I made the decision I had to confront my mom and dad. See, one of the lessons in life that I've learned that is such a valuable lesson. Anything you don't confront, you validate. Anything you don't confront, you're not going to understand. And when you don't understand a point in your life where you need understanding, what does it bring to your life? It brings doubt. Do you know how long I doubted myself? It also brings worry. I used to live with constant worry. About what if my mother was right? What if I am stupid? What if I can't do anything with my life? What if no one will ever love me? And when that doubt and worry was there, it also created a huge element of uncertainty. Do you have any idea how long I played that what-if game? And that's one of the most dangerous games you can play in life. Why? Because you can't answer a what-if question without another what-if question. So I knew if I was going to be able to build a foundation of believing in me, trusting me, and having faith in me, that I had to confront my mom and dad. It was 62 miles from my dormitory room to my mom and dad's front door. I can remember getting into, at that time, it was Long Grove, where my mom and dad had moved to. I can remember getting to their house and slowing down. But I didn't turn into the driveway. I just drove right on by. I'm going to tell you something, folks. It was like my heart was trying to jump out of my chest. I was so scared. I was so afraid. And I started playing this what if game all over again. And it just, the anxiety within me just took over. A few miles down the road past my mom and dad's house, I pulled over to the side and I had that come to Jesus meeting with myself. Because I knew that what I needed to do was what God was telling me had to happen. See, the other part to this that kept me solid was my belief in God, was my trust that even though I didn't fully understand it, He would always show me the pathway forward. And that He would never just leave me alone. So I can remember pulling over to the side of the road and just sitting there for a minute and just asking God, God, I need your strength. I know I need to do this, but I need your strength. And in that moment, there was a calmness that came over me that didn't remove the anxiety, but it quieted the anxiety. You know, in life, you learn there's a difference between fear and being afraid. Fear is standing in uncertainty, but knowing there is an answer. Being afraid is standing in uncertainty. And it's like you're in a fog, you can't see anything. I was fearful. But I knew I had to do this. I had to confront this. Turned my car around and went back and parked across from my mom and dad's house for just a little bit in a filling station service lot, just staring at their house. And I finally told myself, Richard, if you don't do this now, you're never going to do it. I remember I shot my car across the street, and I reached to open the car door, and it was like it was stuck. It wouldn't open. But what was I doing? I was actually pulling it closed while I was trying to push it open. And I told myself, you got to do this. And have you ever been there in your life? Have you ever known you needed to do something and you wanted to do it? And your mind tells you, you can do this. You can achieve this. You can do this if you're willing to step forward. And I remember pushing that car door open, and I got out, and folks, I didn't walk to the front door. I ran to the front door because I knew if I walked, I would turn around and run back to my car, because I tell you, I was back to my heart trying to beat out of my chest. Screen door and wooden door. Wooden door was closed, so I knocked on the screen door. And my dad was the person who opened the wooden door, and when my dad saw me, he just turned white, and I mean white. I said, Dad, I need to talk to you and Mom. And I wish you could have been there, because my dad didn't bother to unlock the screen door. He stepped through the screen door. And with one hug, my dad told me everything that had been pinned up inside of him. And I tell you, he was hugging me till he was hurting me. And I could feel the emotions in him as he was hugging me. And my dad just literally carried me back into the house. And we were standing there, and Dad finally realized that it was me and I was there. And so he paused and he looked toward the kitchen where my mom was. And he said, "Mom, come see who's here." And I'll never forget this as long as I live. My mom stepped from the kitchen into the doorway that led to the living room where my dad and I were. And when my mom saw me, the look on her face was one of total anger. And you've heard the statement, if looks could kill, you'd be dead. Well, that's what was happening. My mother just stood there for, I don't know, a few seconds. And then she took her right hand and she reached around behind her and untied her apron and just let it fall to the floor. She reached over with her left hand to the table that had always been there where she kept her purse. And she picked up her purse, never taking her eyes off of me, reached into her purse, got out her car keys, turned around, walked out the back door, got in her car, and drove off. And I never saw her again. Do you think that I've had to go through a lot to overcome my yesterday? To not erase that tape. Because I'm going to tell you something. You can't erase yesterday's tapes, but you can rewrite them. Do you think it's been a journey for me to overcome that message from my mom? You're the stupidest kid I've ever met. And I look at myself today, and I wish I could have that conversation with my mom and tell her, "Stupid? Look at me. Look at what I've achieved. 19 books I've written. I'm not stupid." Or I can hear my mom echoing those words. "You'll never amount to anything in life." And I want to scream at her and tell her, "Look at me. Look at what I've achieved with my life." And then those words that said, "You're not lovable." And you know this as well as I do. Until you love yourself, other people can't love you. I can remember how I challenged those 3 messages my mother gave me. I used to get up and I told myself, these messages are not true. You can rise above them. You don't have to go to that filing cabinet and open that filing cabinet and keep pulling out those files that say you're stupid, you're not going to amount to anything in life, and that you're not lovable. You don't have to live that way because your life is your choice. And folks, you can improve the terrain. You can change the terrain of your life anytime you're willing to pay that price. Because there is a price to pay. And that price is not to let that yesterday you, that old you, own your today. Here's what I know about humans. We either live from yesterday to today or today to tomorrow. If I live from yesterday to today, everything is about that filing cabinet of wrongs. It's about having excuses, it's about having reasons, it's about blame, it's about justifications, why I can't seem to do anything with my life. And I have no patience with people who use their yesterday as the reason they don't have the life they can have today, because they never face the yesterday you. And they keep giving it control. Or I can make the choice to be the evolving me, where every day I look at that file cabinet of success, and every day I feel like I look into the files and I gather the greatness of my life. And if I can live from today to tomorrow, then I can have a future that's different from my yesterday. But if I live from yesterday to today, all I have is repeating and living in my circle of sameness. I can remember that I would get up in the mornings, and I had this yellow legal pad, and in fact, I still have it today. And I started this every morning challenge with myself, that I would stand in front of that mirror until I could find one thing. In the beginning, all I wanted to do was find one thing that I liked about me. I wasn't going to try to find one thing that I loved about me, because I knew I didn't love me. It was hard just to find something that I liked about me. And I can remember that that first morning I decided I was going to do this. This is no exaggeration. I was probably there for 40 minutes. Because that old Richard, that old nature, that old me that was holding me hostage through the tapes that my mother had given me, that old me didn't want me to find anything that I liked about me. Because if I found something that I liked about me, and that grew to I found things that I loved about me, I was negating the hold that yesterday had over me. Let me tell you something. There's freedom in learning to like yourself. There's freedom in finding that you do have value. You do have good. There is a positive purpose for your life. But it's not going to come and just zap you. You got to search for it. And I'll tell you something. You're looking at a guy right now who can honestly tell you, I love me. People laugh at me when I say this, but it's true. I'll throw a party and only invite myself, no one else. Because I love me. I don't need to prove myself to people. I don't. Because inwardly, I have that belief, I have that trust, I have that faith in me. I'm a person of value. God's given me certain gifts, and He's created stages for me to stand on. And every stage has been a time of learning about me. You see, folks, there is a part of life where we live outside in. And the world pulls us outside. And in that world, we give up control of our life because we don't have the belief, the trust, and the faith in ourselves. And we live with the doubt, the worry, and the uncertainty. So we give our life to everybody else to program. Do you know that that is the majority of people? Serious question for you. Do you believe in yourself? Do you really? Or do you doubt yourself more? Do you trust yourself? Or do you worry about your life? Do you have faith in you? Or is it possible that every day you walk in uncertainty? See, I believe this. This is your life to design. It will be what you want it to be. Because you will be exactly in your life where you want to be. And people tell me all the time, Richard, that is not true. I don't want to be here. Then why are you there? You're there because you live with the attitude, I can't because I won't. Rather than the attitude, I can because I will. You ever had a time in your life where you justified not doing what you knew you needed to do? And then had an excuse for it, or blamed somebody, or had a justification for what you weren't doing? You ever been there? Possible you're there right now? You are a person of talent. You are a person of value. So, I think there are 4 questions that you have to ask yourself. If you're going to learn to close that negative file cabinet in yesterday and open that positive file cabinet of today. Now, hear me say this to you one more time. You either live from yesterday to today, where all you're doing is repeating the pain, the wrongs, the frustrations, the anger, the letdowns, the disappointments of yesterday. And that can become a lifestyle. You've known people who have blamed what their life isn't because of what happened in yesterday. I'll tell you something. I am living proof that is, as bad as my yesterday was, I have risen above it. You know why? Because I believe in me. I trust me. I have faith in me. And one of the big reasons that I can tell you that is because I've grown to understand that this really is my life until I give it away. I really have the right to design my life until I give it to someone else to design. But as long as I live with doubt, worry, and uncertainty, I'm going to give my life to other people, and I will become an actor in their play, and I will not be me. I will be the script that they have for my life. But when I learn to believe, trust, and have faith in myself, this becomes my life. So I'd like to give you 4 questions. And I'd like for you to really, really, really think these through. And they come in one order. You can't rearrange these questions because it's a process. Question number 1. What do I really want for my life? And it's not what do I want for my life? No. That's a shallow question. It's the word really that makes a difference. What do I really want for my life? Now, to answer that question, you're going to have to believe in yourself. If you doubt yourself, there's no answer to that question. You got to trust yourself that there is a purpose. None of us are on this earth by accident. There's a purpose for our life, but the majority of people never find their purpose because they live with, I can't because I won't. You got to have faith in yourself. You see, what happens with faith is that it turns the unknown into adventure. And when I believe in myself, I know there's more. When I trust in myself, I have that determination. And when I have the faith, then I have the inner strength to take that belief and that trust and turn the unknown into a world of possibility where there I can find the opportunity. So, question number one, what do I really want for my life? Question number two, why do you really want that? I'm not a big believer in goals the way we teach them, because I think most of what people write that they call goals are actually fantasies. They're hallucinations. We write goals because people say we need goals. No. You need a purpose first. What do I really want for my life? What is my purpose? And then, why do I really want this? That's my desire and my determination coming together. It's bringing purpose from simply a thought to a foundational part of your life. And then the third question, what price am I willing to pay to achieve this? I'm going to tell you something, folks. You'll only go as far in life as you're willing to pay the price. There's a price tag to everything. You know that. There is a price tag to everything in life. And that price tag takes a lot of desire. It takes a lot of determination. It takes a lot of commitment. Because if you're not willing to pay the price, the result of that is you'll find an excuse, you'll find a reason, you'll find blame, you'll find justification to go back to those filing cabinets of limitation. But when you have that determination, that desire, that discipline in your life, and you're reaching for that file cabinet that says, I can because I will, that opens the door. And it allows you to live from your mind down, not your emotions up. And then the fourth question, what behaviors will I have to improve to get there? You see, sameness is a trap. Sometimes people feel like that when they have sameness in their life, they have stability. There is no stability in sameness. Because sameness is about repeating, and there's nothing stable in life to simply repeat and live Groundhog Day. Stability happens when you grow. Stability happens when you see that pathway from today to tomorrow, when you have that living dream inside of you, and you know your purpose, you know why you want it, and you're going to pay the price. But to do that, I got to have that inner look at myself where I am honest with me. And what am I doing that's denying my life what I really want? And what's denying your life is behavior. Why? Because the essence of truth in your life is not what you say, it's what you do. Behavior never lies. So let me ask you a question. Do you know what you really want for your life? Are you standing, just staring? Or do you have a purpose, but maybe that purpose is not real clear because you're fearful of it? And when fear becomes fright, you doubt, you worry, you live in uncertainty. When purpose becomes a living, breathing part of your life, it's filled with belief, trust, and faith. Do you know why you want to do this with your life? Do you know what you would have to do in order to put you on the path to achieving it? And are you willing to bring the behaviors to your life? And I'm not talking about you changing your life. No. I'm talking about you improving your life through understanding your purpose, your commitment, your willingness. Look at me. I could have gone over in the corner from my childhood and laid down and got in the fetal position and sucked my thumb the rest of my life. And I could have justified it. I could have justified it with my mother. I could have accepted her script for my life and just said, Mom's right. I'm stupid. I'll never do anything. I'll never be a person anyone can love. Because how other people see you is the result of the projection that you present of yourself to them. So, one final question for you. If you got real honest with yourself, would you say that right now, which one of these attitudes are you living with? I can't because I won't. Or I can because I will. Now, there's a simple way of knowing what answer is honesty. Where are you in your life? Are you living with doubt, worry, and uncertainty? And that's holding you hostage in yesterday? So you're living from yesterday to today? Or are you living with that belief, trust, and faith in yourself? Or are you living from today to tomorrow? And I promise you something. You know the answer. I am living proof that yesterday does not have to be a prison cell where you lock yourself away because you keep going to the wrong set of file cabinets. But that yesterday can become the doorway from a today to a tomorrow, that every day you are better than you've been because you live with the attitude, I can because I will. What are you doing right now? Which one?